Hello folks, it's happy Wednesday time again. Right, so here we go. And Rhydian, no one can hear or see you at the minute, so you can keep putting faces. And I was giving the game away. But yeah, okay, right, so let's get to the title, shall we? And we'll get down to business. Again, we've got lots of stuff to do tonight. So here we go, titles.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of VapeTrails.tv.
Okay then, so that's the titles done with. So tonight then I am joined by Mr. Rhydian Mann, who I've put in shot now. There we are, Mr. Rhydian Mann. Say hello.
Hello. How is everybody?
I'm sure everybody is fine. Right, now some of you, most of you in chat probably aware who Rhydian actually works for. And in his official capacity, he works for Decadent Vapors. So if you can give us a quick rundown on what you do at DV there, Rhydian.
Well, I first started off in the mixing lab, making up all the lovely juices that most people may have had. And now I've moved on to health and safety and quality control as well. So I'm basically making sure that all the juices are of good quality. Don't make sure our raw materials don't have any nasties in them. And making everything up to spec according to e-cigs guidelines.
Okie doke. So yeah, so you started off basically on the mixing room floor as such, and basically you worked your way out from there then.
Well, yeah, it's like my back. I did a forensic science degree, so it's very heavy in analytical chemistry and quality. So it felt a little bit obvious. Well, I wouldn't say obvious. My skills suited the more of a QC role, and that's where I wanted to go.
Okay.
So I'm happy where I am now, despite all the paperwork.
Fair enough. And the pain of the exams you went through to get there.
Yeah. And I have another one tomorrow.
Oh, lucky you. Maybe you shouldn't really be on it tonight then.
No, my plan is whenever I get in, the night before the exam, is just relax, calm down and everything.
Right. So, let's get to the point then. Some of you may be wondering why Rhydian is on here is in his official capacity, as opposed to basically being the co-host of this show, because he's on every other week anyway. Despite not having a beard or a DNA 40. Well, one of them's easily sorted out, but I don't know about the other. Anyway. I've just to get some nice beard tonic or something. So basically, of course, we know in the media and the news and everything else recently, they've been harping on about flavourings being bad for you, this sort of thing. That, you know, they found another set of straws to clutch at. And you've kind of got something to say about the whole cinnamon thing, haven't you?
Yeah. Cinnamon, right. Well, first of all, it's always good to actually look at any of the research papers that some media websites link to, and I've actually done that. And there's just a lot of things I picked up on that most people may have, and certainly the big academics would have picked up on.
Right.
For example, the reason why the media picked up on the cinnamon being irritating and most toxic is because what they did was to directly drop the e-liquid onto the lung cells themselves.
Right.
And we all know that we don't directly swallow the e-liquid or breathe in the liquid on its own. It
No.
goes into the vapor. So that was one thing, but that also means that the concentration of the flavourings put onto the cells directly is a lot higher than what it would be in the vapor, because it's all heated and changed form, if you will.
Okay.
And then other stuff. Here we go. Let me get the right page out. Then they did an experiment using essentially a vaporized concoction,
Right.
but only using a cig-alike rather than using a better device.
Okay. Yeah. A generation 2 or higher, basically.
Yeah, generation 2
Yeah.
or higher, because the machines they were using to generate the vapor were the same machines that tobacco companies do for the puff tests.
Okay.
And blah, 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 blah. The line I picked out, of the 4 commercially available e-liquids, only Cinnamon Roll, from the company that they source e-liquids from, stimulated a significant increase in interleukin-8 secretion. Now, interleukin-8 is chemical signal. It's a chemical signal which cells secrete to promote an immune response.
Okay.
But what we don't know or what the researchers don't know, is what the main components are. All because it says it's cinnamon doesn't mean that the cinnamon flavouring, which is more than likely cinnamaldehyde, but that's just my opinion because I don't actually have the raw data.
Okay.
I can't. Yeah, so without knowing what is exactly in the e-liquids in the first place, it could be any source within the flavouring or even the liquid itself to cause this irritation.
Right.
And personally, I think what they did there with dripping e-liquid directly onto cells is just completely ridiculous. It's not.
Yeah, it's not realistic at all, is it?
It's not realistic being one word, one term for it, but it's not a decent methodology anyway. Yes, it's fine if you're studying the effect of viruses on cells and stuff like that, because that's how they work. They go into the cells and burst them and whatnot. But vapor goes in through the lungs into the bloodstream, diluted down, probably metabolized a bit more before it goes even into the cells.
Okay.
And this is me digging out to my biochemistry part of my brain, which is tightly locked away. So with the headlines from the Daily Mirror, that I picked up, e-cigarette flavors damage the lungs. Cinnamon vape juice found to be the most toxic. That's the most toxic based on the small sample from 1 or 2 juice sellers that they sourced the e-liquids from.
Yeah. Okay.
And generalizing everything like that is just scaremongering, isn't it?
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, it seems to be that these tests for using the term loosely seem to be engineered for the result to come a certain way, don't they?
Well, after reading the rest of the paper, I thought, okay, this looks good, but then other parts of it don't add up to the results that they've got from the direct liquid onto the cells part of the research.
Right. Okay.
But I'm nowhere near a professional scientist, and I'm sure Dr. F, and all the crew on our side, will have an opinion on it. Oh, I have tea. Will have a more expert opinion on it, and they've been doing this sort of thing for years. I only did 3 years of chemistry and mishmash of biology, so I'm just using common sense here and what I know from vaping.
Oh, okay. Also, I'd just like to point out, I don't have a cup of tea. I put my hand out here and I don't get one.
Sorry.
That's really quite upsetting. How does that work? I need one of those.
Matt wants a cup of tea, by the way, Vic.
Yeah, you can pop it over.
Why to you, Matt?
Teleport it to you.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll be getting a 3D printer soon. I can print one out. Right, so also let's move that to one side a bit now, because I think you said your piece on it for the moment. Unless you've got anything else to add.
Another sentence I picked up on. Since cinnamon flavour e-liquid is capable of stimulating a significant increase in IL-8 secretion from lung cells, while other e-liquid flavours which they tested, such as grape and tobacco, did not. Certain e-liquid flavour additives can stimulate an inflammatory response in cultured lung cells. It's like, okay, that you're just reporting what you're seeing, but you haven't put it into context.
Right.
They haven't, but maybe I've skipped a bit after skim reading it this afternoon.
Yeah, fair enough. It's. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I know someone who's been on the show, D Goatee. His all day vape is basically cinnamon red hots and a liquid that may be familiar to some people who have known DV for some time, Diablo Loco. He vapes that every day. Now, if anything's going to irritate your lungs, that would, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Because it's made from the heat-producing chemical in the Naga chili peppers, capsaicin, however you say it.
Yeah, I've always called it capsaicin, but I could be wrong as well. I probably am.
I put my teeth in or whatever. Yeah, that compound is well renowned for generating heat. It's like, even from normal peppers, if you put it on a sensitive membrane of your skin, like you know, if you freshly cut your nails and you put it under your nails as a sting.
Yeah.
But the chilies that we use are among the hottest chilies going around. So, with the amount of capsaicin, didn't say
hot stuff.
To say the hot stuff. Yeah, thank you, Matt. The hot stuff will irritate you because that's what it does naturally.
Yeah.
So, but what we do, we make sure that it's at. We extract it from the peppers themselves through a process that I cannot disclose.
Fair enough.
And mix it down, filter out all the peel, the seeds, and all that, and dilute it down until it's at the strength where you can go, oh, that's a bit hot.
A bit hot. That stuff's stupidly hot. I have actually got a bottle of Diablo Loco and put a drip on my finger and licked it.
Bad idea.
Yeah, it's
very bad idea.
Yeah. It's tasty though.
Yeah. by the by, but because of the nature of the hot compound in it, it naturally irritates sensitive membranes such as your tongues, the underneath of your fingers, the back of your throat, and possibly even the lungs. But we make sure that the concentration we put in the e-liquid is low enough to produce the hot kick, but not so powerful enough it cause the insides of your throat to bleed and stuff like that. Because because that I'm not saying that will happen if you vape concentrate Diablo Loco.
It's not really recommended, is it?
It's not recommended. I'm not saying that will happen, but it's probably the sensation of going, shortness of breath and all that, because it's an instant shock. The last time I vaped it, I wasn't able to speak for about 2 hours.
Well, I mean, I have inadvertently actually vaped concentrate before, not Diablo Loco, just a normal concentrate. And the way it happened was I was mixing up into a bottle. And I didn't, when I mix, I always put the flavours in last. And I didn't quite shake it up enough, so it all settled down. So I just got my bottle, I dripped it straight in the dripper, and my God, I could barely breathe, because that was just concentrate. That's what I vaporised, So you only make that mistake once.
Yeah.
And did it do any lasting harm? No, of course it didn't. But
because you're still here.
I'm still here, and I learnt a lesson. So, as when I first started, it was just and I was short of breath and I was wheezing and that sort of thing. But that was, I instantly realised what I'd done as soon as I did it.
Yeah, I've done that I've done that myself, mixing for my own use, especially when you're dealing with 80% VG mixes.
Yes.
You notice that it's not fully mixed in. You can end up having all your nicotine at the top, and then you just end up having a very big headache. But that's the nature of mixing, isn't it?
Well,
Make sure you do it properly.
And it's just one of these things that everyone does learn, in time. I mean, no one mixes perfectly the first time round. It's a bit of an art form, and eventually you get it down and you get a bit blasé with it and that sort of thing. But anyway, so. As DV, because the one thing I'm curious about is how are flavours actually made?
Right. Some flavours, such as our rotting shark, the Hakal.
That's nasty stuff.
Yes.
You have actually smelt it, have you?
Yes, it was part of my lab initiation. It's one of the unwritten rules of working in the lab.
Oh God.
From what I was told by Luke, the lab manager and head of flavour development, a piece of the rotting shark flesh was left to ferment in a conical flask of VG for goodness knows how long, until the fish shark flavourings mixed with the PG enough, and then because putrefaction produces ammonia anyway, that was all gassed out. So if you ended up vaping ammonia, you would pass out. Literally fall flat.
Okay. So what about a normal flavour then? Let's say bacon. How's that made?
We actually get bacon supplied to us.
Right.
Because at the moment we don't have, despite what some people think, we're not actually a massive business.
Okay.
There's only about 30. We're still classed as a small business in, according to, business company sizes. There's only 30 of us on site.
Right. Okay.
So we get most of our flavours supplied to us from. Not going to tell you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then other flavours such as, for example, our American Red.
Mm-hmm.
One of our tobacco lines, that is formulated in-house using our base flavourings.
Right.
And that took quite a while for Pete to get right.
Okay.
It takes a long time to produce a high quality concentrate.
Right. So basically, what you do is you get flavours in by and large, and you blend them together until you get the result you want.
Yeah.
And aside from things like rotting shark, do you actually formulate any flavours from scratch at all, or?
Some of them we do. Right. Our vanilla is manufactured in house.
Mm-hmm.
Our tobacco base flavour comes in the form of tobacco absolute liquid.
Okay.
We dilute that down and filter it out. Filter out all the nasty bits, as in the detritus and stuff like that. But obviously the tobacco absolute is nicotine free anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, the manufacturing of the tobacco as the tobacco concentrate regarding that's a very laborious process of putting through filter pumps, changing filter pads over, cycling them through, and keeping an eye on it for clarity. Make sure it's clear.
Right. We was also talking before we went on air as well about testing and things, and you were saying about you're going to be you get all your stuff tested for diacetyl, that sort of thing. Yes.
Yeah, we get our stuff tested in Greece.
Right.
Not by Dr. F before anybody jumps in. We get our all our concentrates, including our bespoke formulated in-house combinations, all tested in a lab in Greece for diacetyl and acetylpropionyl. And we're still working through our flavour database because it is quite large.
Yeah, it is. I remember when I started vaping, and I stumbled across the DV site, chiefly because I was quite interested in mixing my own, and I was quite befuddled by the range of flavours there.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we've actually trimmed down a bit.
Yeah, I have noticed actually. I mean, you always used to do concentrates of every single juice you sold, didn't you? And that's not the case anymore, is it?
Some of them that we've got rid of because of the actual raw material having the nasties in.
Oh, right, okay.
And we try, as any good company would do, you try to find an alternative that meets the same standard of quality. Unfortunately, for some of them, we couldn't. And also, it comes down to a business decision of what's selling and what isn't.
Yeah. I mean, that was my reasoning for it. Was someone's not buying a load of concentrate for bacon ice. What's the point in selling the bacon ice concentrate?
Yeah.
You know, at one point you was giving it all away free, pretty much, weren't you?
Yeah, that was when we launched it. It's like, order this much and we throw in some bacon ice for you.
I do have a bottle of bacon ice concentrate somewhere, but I cannot find it. You'd think I'd better smell it.
You should be able to smell it over everything.
It's behind me somewhere over there, and I don't know where it is. It's in an envelope in a plastic baggie. I put it to one side, and this is about 1.5 years ago, and now I can't find it.
Maybe Caroline's thrown it out.
No, she wouldn't go near it, because I did actually open the bottle up and waft it under her nose at one point.
Oh, you naughty man.
Yeah, it was funny though. Yeah, I mean, if I was to move the camera over this way, you'd see why. I'm not going to move the camera over that way. No. But yeah. Okay. So obviously DV's linked with e-cigs as well, and that's quite a well-known fact. Do e-cigs actually test as well as you testing yourself?
Yeah, they do. At least twice a year they do an audit with us. That might be wrong. It may only be once a year.
Okay.
But they do audit us regularly enough for to make sure that we are meeting what we say we're doing and that we're meeting e-cigs guidelines.
Okay.
And because they've got the new PASS BSI standard coming out soon, we're going to be trying to meet their standard as well.
Right, okay.
Even though we're already putting in place an ISO 9001 quality system, which is always a thumbs up.
Okay, right, what I think we should do the adverts. I know chat's been quite busy, so it'll give us a chance to quickly skim over chat. And if there's any questions in there, we can answer them after the break, if you're happy to do that.
Yeah, I can do that. Do that.
Righto then, so let me just queue up the adverts and we'll get there, and we'll be back in about all of 2.5 minutes. Alright, see you in a mo.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
Healthy Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquids. Proud sponsors of vaping entertainment on Vapor Trails TV.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
And we're back. So, as we do when the ads are on, we have a little chat. And we're having a little go through the chat room there. And it seems that some of you have actually tried the bacon flavour. Now,
Poor people.
And I'm still going to do this. I've not seen Peter Cole for over a year now. Well, I tell a lie. I did see him in Sainsbury's every week, but not to speak to. He was at one checkout, I was at the other. And the time I finished packing my shopping, then... Because it turns out he lives around the corner from me. Bizarre,
So you should see the moustache mobile.
Yeah. But there he was with his dapper hat on and his fine moustache.
And his long pipe.
He didn't have his pipe in his mouth.
That's weird.
Well, he was in Sainsbury's, you know. But, yeah. And I did actually make him a mission, and I promised Peter as well. I said, next time I see you, I'll be able to vape bacon ice legitimately. Which is why I want to find that concentrate, because I want to mix some up. I want to mix it up at 10%. I'm not going to do 20, because I think that would be very, very silly. And I want to train myself to actually vape that stuff.
Like what Goaty does with Diablo Loco.
Actually, speaking of which, I've actually got a video clip. It's on my old YouTube channel of Peter Cole actually vaping Goaty's juice, and he coughed.
Oh.
Yeah. It made him cough and splutter.
You know why?
Go on.
Not because of the Loco in it, it's because the nicotine wasn't strong enough.
Yeah, probably. He vapes 60 milligrams, doesn't he? Well, he did at the time.
There or thereabouts.
I know he did actually give D a bottle of 60 milligram sarsaparilla. And the only reason I don't vape it is simply because I really don't like sarsaparilla. I think it's just German.
It's American.
It tastes like Germaline.
Oh, Germaline. Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you said it tasted German.
Yeah, I go around nicking Germans. That's what I do in my spare time when I'm not on camera. Anyway, so you had a PM just a minute ago, didn't you?
Yeah, Lamento has asked, will DV be putting info on the website regarding acetaldehydes, particularly diacetyl and acetylpropanol, and which DV flavours may or may not contain them? That is a very, very decent question.
Uh-huh.
Right now, on our website, we say our flavours are diacetyl and acetylpropanol free.
Right.
And we test our juices, as I said before, for these compounds. And being QC now, I have a quick look at the test results, and they're all coming back negative.
Okay.
So far, I have to quantify this so far, because we're still working our way through. What we've done first of all is test our most popular flavourings, and they've all come back negative.
Okay.
So that's a very good thing. But if any of the test results come up as positive, we won't be putting them out.
Okay. Well, that's simple as that.
Simple as that.
Would you actually consider putting a press release out saying that this flavour's been discontinued because we found traces of this in it, or?
Well, yeah, because that's essentially good customer focus and good customer communication. Because when you do something or deal with a chemical as well known as those two, especially in e-liquid, excuse me, everybody will want to know if it's in there or not.
Yeah.
Well, any sensible vapor would want to know if it's in there or not.
Yeah, and then they can make a decision whether they're going to continue using it, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as we know, both of those compounds are used to artificially sweeten e-liquids, and that's probably a little bit more down the realm of the custards rather than anything else.
Yeah, you do a custard, don't you? At least one.
We do a custard, yes,
Yeah.
and that is negative for both of them.
Okay, and I know you do another couple of creamy ones, like key lime pie's got a bit of a creamy taste to it. I presume that's negative as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good because I really, really like the key lime pie. I've got to be honest, it's one of the finest flavours ever made, in my opinion.
Oh! I shall pass that on to work tomorrow afternoon after my exam.
I absolutely adore it. I have a bottle of it. In fact, I need to remix it actually. Where's it gone?
Did you say you secretly adore it?
No. I didn't say I secretly adore it. I said I really adore it. I didn't say secretly, but yeah, I need to mix up another bottle. That's very nice. Very nice.
Very nice.
I've actually got 60 ml of the concentrate in the top drawer there.
Oh, that's a bit old. 60 mils?
Yeah, well, concentrate keeps, as far as I'm concerned. You might say differently because you want to drum up sales from me.
We do 100 mils now, if you want it.
Well, I've got through to 60, maybe, yeah. It's very nice. Do I get a discount?
Oh, you'd have to email the powers that be.
Well, I'm asking you.
I'm not the powers that be.
Oh. Do you get a discount? That don't answer that. Anyway,
Cheeky.
actually,
Very cheeky.
Yeah, of course. Well, you got to have a go, haven't you? One question, actually, that I'm curious to know the answer is: do you test for tank cracking?
For tank cracking compounds.
Well, if you get a juice, say it's got an orange-based juice, for example, orange can be known as a tank cracking juice. Yes.
Yeah. Well, what at the moment, I'm not currently aware of any tank crackers on our database, a flavour database.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly because we haven't had any feedback saying that, oh, by the way, your juice has cracked our tank.
Okay.
But if there were issues raised with that, we'd look at the juice and then, if necessary, test it for the common juice cracking compounds, and then I got distracted by Mrs. saying I love you. Thank you. Professional to the end.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so if any of the results come back with the tank crackers, we will investigate the source, and if necessary, change the formulations, carry out some separations if we need to.
Okay.
or look for an alternative supplier for that sort of flavour.
All right, that's fair enough.
Covering all the bases there.
It's one of those things that you very rarely see on. There was one juice vendor years ago, Pixie Juice, and they used to put on the site under each flavour this is known to crack tanks or not, and that's the only site I've ever seen that's done that. And presumably that was probably done by feedback, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's I would agree there. But with the tank crackers, it's like most people in chat wouldn't be on the polycarb tanks now anyway, apart from if there's a few recent switches.
Yeah.
Because the higher end devices, especially drippers which don't have a tank, or your Pyrex tanks, they're sturdy enough. The only time that you would crack that sort of tank is if you were to drop it on concrete.
Yeah. Or my kitchen floor.
Other rock hard surfaces are available.
Yes. Of course. I mean, it was a worry to me when I first started because I was on the CE4s and that sort of thing for a while, and I did actually have going back to cinnamon again.
Full circle again.
Oh yeah, seamless. It would be if I didn't mention it was seamless. Anyway, but being tight, and this is one thing I don't get about vapors, right? Because we are used to spending X amount per packet of cigarettes, right? And then when we switch to vaping, what our chief concern appears to be is, can I clean this and can I use it again? Or, I don't want to pay £1.20 for a coil. That's too much money. Yeah? And I was guilty of that when I first started. I got some CE4s, they were disposable, basically. But when I first got it, I got a sample pack of 5ml bottles of juice. Now, these CE4s only held about 1.5 to 2 ml of juice. So I was squirting in a juice and it's like, I'll vape that. Yeah, that's quite nice. I want to try another one, but I've only got 2 CE4s. So I need to rinse it out with some vodka and some hot water, shake it and drip it out, dry burn it, all this sort of thing. And I put some cinnamon red hots in there, which I mixed myself. So it was probably a stupidly high ratio, so I didn't really know what I was doing at that point in time. And the tank just went. So yeah, there we go. Bring it back to cinnamon again.
It's like if you don't know the complete chemical breakdown of a flavouring, then you actually have no idea of what can cause the cracking. Which ties into what I've got to do to meet our ISO 9001. Which is to do risk assessments on all the chemicals on site as part of my health and safety and QC. So I have to get all the safety data sheets, and then in a section of those you have the mixture breakdown. But the only chemical compounds that are in that section are the ones that are classified by the EU as irritants, sensitizers. Basically nasty chemicals in their raw form in a table, and then it gives you percentage concentration. And then depending on the percentage concentration of it throughout the whole flavouring, I'm stopped mid-flow again. Yeah, depending on the concentration of the flavouring, the amount of the indicated identified chemical compounds changes, but most of them are between 0 and 5% in our range.
Okay.
Not the concentrates themselves, but the chemical compounds that give them the flavor. The flavor, the natural and the synthetic compounds that give them the characteristic flavor.
Okay. There's a whole science to this, isn't there? There really is.
There's a whole lot of paperwork too.
Okay, so finally then, TPD. If that was to be enforced in its current form, where would DV stand?
Well, first of all, don't you swear at me on VTTV.
I'm ever so sorry. I shall mind my manners next time.
Yes. Right, as everybody knows, TPD is medregs by the back door.
Yes.
And the amount of testing that the TPD requires us to do is completely unrealistic. If we were to take one flavor concentrate, at the moment we do 50-50 as our standard strength, as our standard mix ratio, and then you have 0, 6, 12, 18 and 24. So you have 5 different variations, and you have to do a toxicological risk assessment on them, which will involve putting a vapor onto a cell culture and working how many get a response or whatever. But the TPD is very vague like that. Very vague. It doesn't. So essentially, you'll have to send it off to a testing company that's experts with that are experts in that field to get it done properly. Because I know DV right now aren't capable of doing those sort of testing in-house.
Okay.
Because of logistics and whatever. And
would they even accept an in-house test?
that's the point.
Yeah.
It's probably not, because that's how the so-called regulatory authority, which is mentioned in the TPD, which would be the MHRA, by the way, and they charge a fair whack of money. So if you were to test DV's product range, all the flavourings in the 50-50 bases, in all of the strengths, you would probably have to have the GDP of a small country.
Right.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
So there are 2 ways we could... there are 2 results. We shut down, which we don't want to... I personally... Well, it's my job. I don't want to...
Yeah.
And a lot of people in chat wouldn't want us to go anywhere. The alternative is to shrink our product range so much that it's affordable to do the testing, but then making sure that we make enough money off the products to pay for the testing.
Yeah.
It's probably something that Tom and Catherine would be better to answer than me, because half of this is my opinion. It's like, we could shut down because we can't afford to do the testing at all to the standard that they want, the TBT wants, and decrease the product range. Double-edged sword. If we don't have the amount of products and we don't ship enough, we can't do the testing anyway, and therefore we close down.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword, which nobody wants to feel whatsoever. Because it's a consumer product.
Right. On that note, then, I think what we do, we'll take a break now. Comments in chat. People are desperate for a comfort break, it would appear. So, have you said everything you need to say, Rhydian, or have you got any more to add?
If I add any more, I would go on a rant and a blood vessel would go.
Fair enough. All right, so what we do, when we come back from the break, I'm going to play in the second part of Very Boring's Von Beck build. And then that'll be wrapping up the evening, I think. So if you want to say goodbye, Rhydian.
Goodbye!
And thank you very much for joining me once again.
No problem.
Okay.
I can now go back to revising.
Lucky you. All right, cheers. See you in a moment.
Ta-da.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Award-winning service and products from cloud9vaping.co.uk.
Vapers, do you love discovering new e-liquids? Tell Dripper the types of flavours you like and they'll send you 5 gourmet juices each month. Experience new and exclusive flavours, all with a money-back guarantee and free delivery anywhere in Europe. Dripper.co.uk.
What's in this e-cig cloud? Harmless water vapour, right? Pretty much, yes. Compared to a lit cigarette, it's much safer than smoke. But it contains nicotine, and nicotine on its own isn't toxic and doesn't cause cancer. If you're worried about switching to vapour, here are some facts. No tar, no smoke, no burnt tobacco. Cooking your evening meal produces more toxins than are found in exhaled vapour. Tobacco smoke contains toxins at very high levels, and vapour does not. And that vapour contains 6,000 times less carcinogens than cigarette smoke. Electronic cigarette vapour. There's nothing to be frightened of. The only dangerous electronic cigarette is a banned one.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
Hi there, just to let you know, the button I made, I have used epoxy. Well, I put a solid piece of plastic behind the switch, and then I soldered on the wires from the board, and I've put epoxy behind it to hold it in place. And as you can see, I soldered on the positive and negative wires for the circuit board as well, while I was waiting for that to dry. And I've put epoxied the perspex in place. Now, as you can see, I had to make a change to the way I designed the switch. Too many of the little foam sections meant it wasn't going to press properly, so I've cut a small piece of wood to the right length and put one of the pieces of foam on the top, just so that there's something more solid to press down on the button. I attached the Fat Daddy connector, and you notice I've also put the carbon fibre material on the top. That's the material that I'm going to cover the outside with. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have to try and position it all. As you can see, the board sits nicely in its little bay, and I need to push the positives into their slots. Now the bottom connector I've already epoxied in place. Once I've finished adjusting things, I'll epoxy these positives in place as well. But for the moment I'm just leaving them loose because I just want to, oops, the spring's slightly out of shape. But there you can see, hopefully, that the screen can be seen through the hole. Now it's just a case of lining it up. Then I'm going to use this plastic strip to clamp down onto the board. To hold it. And the screen is slightly out of position. I've cut the hole through for the screen a bit narrow. So what I'm going to have to do now is take it apart and just trim a little bit off the edge here on the black plastic. Now to trim the edge of the window, I'm just going to use a scalpel and just carefully, because it's only about ½ millimeter out, so I don't want to be gouging a huge amount off, so I'll just carefully use a scalpel to widen it slightly. So I've widened the screen aperture slightly. As you can see, the screen is now sitting in there nicely. Button's working. So I'm just gonna finish up soldering the connections. Yeah, you may notice I've left a lot of wire spare. That's because I like leaving the excess wire so I can do repairs. But all I really need to do on this now is solder in the atomizer connection and fix the USB in place. Then all I'll have to do after that is epoxy the positive terminals in place and cover it with, I'll have a little bit of fibre optic to poke through for the tank, but that's I can't do that until I've put the carbon fibre on the outside. So here we go. The finished SX350. This one is being named Von Beck, to go with Elric. And as you can see, similar height, slightly thinner, but definitely a lot narrower. Fits nicer in the hand. And instead of using the big button, it's got a touch button, as you can see. So again, it's dual parallel 18650s, which should give plenty of power for a nice all-day vape. Nice. And as I say, slightly more pocket friendly. Than the first SX350. So yeah, if you're going to make a device, don't be afraid to alter the project boxes. Because as you can see, these ones, which a lot of modders will be familiar with, are freely available. They're not expensive. They're quite durable. And all I've done is extend it by a little over an inch. So it's got room for the circuitry for the SX350. Do remember when you're putting the halves together though, as I say, I used screws and metal plates to hold the two halves together. Because if you finish it with a covering, it doesn't matter what it looks like underneath. Thank you very much.
And there we go. That was the conclusion there of the Von Beck film, which apparently is named after a Michael Moorcock character. Apparently. So, obviously we ran over a bit with the chat with Rhydian. I was going to be covering the Kayfun 4 tonight. I do have one. It's right here. So that'll have to wait till next week now. But there's a sneaky peeky for you. Yeah. And next week as well, I shall be covering the very first submission from Viewers Mods. I got an email, and yeah, so I shall be covering that. That's quite good. Also, don't forget my competition that I ran last week. The closing date for that is coming up on the 17th, is it? I can't remember now. Look at last week's video. So if you haven't got your entries in yet to win the SVD, then you know what to do. Send me an email, guessing the ohms, that sort of thing. Watch last week's show for more details. What else is upcoming then? I've still got the Vapor Flask mod to do, which I'll be cracking on with. Maybe making a start on that next week, maybe the week after. We shall see how that goes. I've also, tomorrow I'm going to be placing an order, well, I'll say tomorrow, it might not be, but I'll be placing an order for a 3D printer, because the possibilities of that absolutely astonish me, and I think we can have a lot of fun with that. You know, but we'll see how that one goes. Anyway, I think time has caught up with us, so as always, I shall play you out with the up-and-coming bits and bobs, and if you all form an orderly queue and shuffle over to I4, that'll be superb. Oh, and don't forget, apparently Dave Dawn is going to be appearing on Dimitri's radio show tonight. I forget what time it is, but I think it's about 3 AM UK time. So if you're up and about, give that a listen. So anyway, I shall see you next week. Cheers, folks.
RY4 Radio.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.